If you're hanging out on the north side of Houston, you've got to check out the Farm Drinkery. It's an awesome dive bar located in Spring off of Champions Forest in Louetta. They've got 22 beers on tap, which you know what that means. They are representing the H-Town beer scene. But that's not all. They got great food too. My personal recommendation is to try out the world-famous wings. But the only thing better than an awesome new dive bar is a beer and food discount. You heard it. Beering Ain't Easy podcast listeners can go in and give the code BeerNerd20 for 20% off your bill. That's BeerNerd20 for 20% off. Come for the great atmosphere and stay for the free high fives.
God damn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beer and Ain't Easy with Adam, Drew, and Ryan. Season 2, Episode 5 today.
Order in the universe has been restored with my name in the number 2 spot. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. What'd I do to you, man?
What I do is I listen to the prior episode and I see who outperformed, and that's who goes second in the intro. Because I obviously am always the highest.
A little power rankings action. I like it.
Power rankings, that's a great segue into today's episode. So the episode title for today is called The Intersection of Beer and Sports. So we're going to have some good stuff. And the big difference between today's episode and all our other episodes on the Beer and Ain't Easy podcast is it was the mastermind of our very own Ryan, and he's going to be delivering the agenda today. But first, I think we should talk about our beers. So Ryan, what are you drinking today?
Well, to celebrate my first producer credit, I'm busting out the Spindletap Stratospheric Clouds. As you might imagine, it's a hazy coming in at 8%.
I got beer envy right now.
That is a tasty beer.
And so you want to introduce ours, Adam?
All right, we are drinking Dollar Pills by Holler Brewing Company.
Out of Houston, Texas.
What they're called?
Yeah. So it's a crowler that I picked up on the H-Town Brewery Challenge last weekend at Holler. So do either of y'all watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Absolutely.
Of course.
So every time I see Dollar Pills, y'all, I think about the episode where they're like in the laser tag place and it's like, Fun Zone dollar bills, y'all. That's what I think of every time I go to Holler and get this beer. I'm excited to get this one because when we did our Pilsner episode and we posted it on social media and Facebook groups, people were like, oh, you should have included Holler because they make some of the best Pilsners, but they just don't distribute in cans. So you got to go to the source for this stuff.
Man, missing out.
Well, I guess you're right in your wrongs here.
All right, Ryan, why don't you go ahead and get us into the episode agenda?
All right. Well, like Drew said, we're going to talk about the intersection of beer and sports. So we know we just had a football episode, but with the World Series just concluding and NBA getting into full swing, even NHL is starting. It's a perfect time to talk about the world outside of just some football stuff. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. First question I have for you guys: what do you guys think is the best sporting event for drinking beer and watching?
So are we talking live or are we talking at the house?
Ooh, let's do both. Is it different?
It is different. Absolutely.
Well, what you got, man?
So when it comes to at the house, like there's no better sport than football. Like no question, like that is the best drinking sport.
I agree. One is it happens in the fall when it starts to get a little cooler. There's nothing better than sitting out on the patio, watching some football, drinking beer. And then 2, longevity. Because like you can do it from like 11 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah, it's like that slow and steady, keep going football and beer.
Yeah, there's not really like another sport that's on all day, all weekend.
That's a good explanation.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that's perfect. Plus, there's plenty of TV timeouts and stuff. So if you need to go get another one and you're really into a game, you don't really have to miss much, if anything.
So what about live? What are y'all thinking on live?
I mean,
I'm going to go with baseball.
I was to say, it's hard to beat sitting in the stands drinking a beer at a baseball game.
Dude, I was sitting there like 100% on baseball too.
Wow.
When I go to a baseball game, I'm not like a super fan of baseball. Of course, when the Astros are in the World Series, I become like a baseball fan naturally. Most of the time when I go to a baseball game, I've pre-gamed at a bar somewhere. I show up around the second or third inning and I just focus on going back and forth and getting beers, and I watch about an inning's worth of baseball.
Well, I think that is exactly why it's like a bit. I don't think since I've been an adult, I've ever been to a baseball game without drinking a beer or 2 or 3 or 4. It's just like, to me, it doesn't like keep me entertained for like 9 innings, but the beer does.
Beer never lets you down.
So we've mentioned those 2 sports, and we're talking about pro sports here. If it drops down to like minor leagues, does that change? Obviously, there's not like a minor league football, but like I know minor league baseball, they do crazy promotions and dollar beer nights and all that kind of stuff. Are there any other minor league sports that, kick it up a notch as far as the beer experience goes?
I think minor league baseball just takes it to another level. I remember when I was in college, there was a baseball team like a minor league baseball team like 20 minutes away, and they had quarter beer night.
Oh, damn. That's craft beer, right?
Yeah. Did they serve them in like shot glasses?
For quarter beer night, it didn't matter what they were serving.
It didn't matter if the team won or lost either.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me throw a wrench in this question. Do you guys consider auto racing a sport?
Interesting question.
No. I'm just going to answer it straight out. Fucking driving around in a car, that's not a sport.
If it is, then I am competing every day to and from work.
You're racing those contractors.
I want to go against you guys and say that it is. I've come around on this recently because my wife and I have been watching the F1 Netflix series Drive to Survive, and we've gotten all into it, probably like a whole bunch of other people. But the amount of concentration and fine motor skills and strategy that it takes, I'm like, man, this is like crazy. And like all the teamwork required for pit stops and stuff, I'm like come completely around on it. But I also biased want to include it because now that I'm thinking about it, that might be the best spectator sport. When you get all those RVs in the infield and you sit on top of them watching the race, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
It has to be a sport to be the greatest spectator sport, Ryan.
That's what I'm saying. I'm biased. I want to include it so I can say it's the best spectator sport.
So let me ask this question. If you competed in a race, would you be sore the next day?
Ooh.
Because I think for it to truly be a sport, after you do it, you've got to be sore the next day.
I mean, sometimes when you drive long distances, you kind of get that cramp in your accelerator.
I'm not talking old man dad sore. Because there's a lot of things that would fall into that category.
I think, like according to your description, though, my arm gets sore sometimes when I go bowling, so that's definitely a sport.
I don't know, man. Like driving that fast and trying to turn and fight in the car, the momentum, or what is that? The inertia. I should know this, but yeah, it's probably pretty hard to do. It might be tougher than we think.
I think there's only one way to find out.
Ooh, ghost ride that whip.
I think that's our only option is we'll park cars at the entrance and the exit, and we'll have a race. The neighborhood 500.
That seems like a reasonable way of handling this situation.
Yeah, I think it's the only logical way to come to resolution.
I don't know if I've convinced you guys about the auto racing. What about horse racing? Sport or no sport?
Before we go to horse racing, I will say that I've never actually been to a NASCAR or car racing event. So like I've seen a lot of videos and pictures of the tailgate scene and the beer scene. It looks pretty impressive, so I don't want to like discount the fact that there could be like a live action aspect to that.
I'm down to go tailgate at any type of activity. So
yeah, I haven't been either.
Because
But
I don't think it's a sport does not mean that I'm not willing to go drink heavily beforehand.
So whether or not we agree on if it's a sport, we can all agree it's an event for sure.
That can really be said about anything, though.
Yeah, I suppose you can make anything an event or a scene.
Okay, back to your question, Ryan.
You were asking us about horse racing?
Horse racing. Sport or no sport?
Sport.
I think that's a sport.
I think so too. The skill involved is pretty amazing. And there's like so much strategy. I don't know. All
those jockeys are jumping on the back of those horses too. They're moving.
You would be sore the day after a horse race. I'm sure of that.
I like this qualifier here. We'll call it the soreness test.
The soreness test. I'm going to use that the rest of the podcast.
I've done one of those dude rants vacations, and I can verify there is soreness afterwards.
So you've basically
what
discounted.
Were you doing?
That's for the after episode.
So you've basically canceled out any sort of like esports, like all these people, with the video game sports. I think that you're the soreness test.
They're out. They're out.
It's the only legitimate way to determine.
They're out.
This.
So
They're
yes, it's a competitive game.
Well, I think it points to the next potential sport, golfing.
Yeah. I think golfing becomes a sport if you get off your ass and actually walk between the holes instead of riding around in the cart.
I still am going to say it's a sport if you're on the cart.
I agree. If you're like me, after you take 100 swings, you get real tired afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, even if you go on a cart, you're out there sweating your ass off. It's a sport.
I'm usually sore, but it's like usually it's my ego that's sore after playing golf because I'm like swinging so many times. And
we didn't say where you had to be sore.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of surprised. I fully expected some hot takes on golf.
Okay, I have the next one.
Go for it.
Table tennis.
Is this U.S. table tennis or like
international?
International. Have you seen those guys move?
Oh yeah,
that's
a sport.
It's a sport. It's in the Olympics, right?
It is in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's another qualifier. That is a badass drinking sport. Now that we're talking about drinking sports, because like the whole like betting on the horses, like that's a great combo with alcohol.
So when I lived in Vegas, we would often gamble on horse racing. And it is very exhilarating.
I love the Kentucky Derby. Like that's a lot of fun. Like betting on the horses and drinking, like that's a great combo event. But when you go to Vegas and look at when it's not one of those big events and it's just horse racing on and you see the guy with like 40 sheets of paper looking like he's been chain smoking cigarettes for 30 years, like it takes a little bit of a depressing turn. That's Vegas.
It's still fun. It's still fun. Well, it's fun because it's so unpredictable. Like you can go in there and know absolutely nothing. You just pick a random horse and it might win, it might not. And halfway through, it could look like it's completely losing and then it could win.
Yeah, I know. We used to place bets at the local horse track every year for the Kentucky Derby, and I would like do research all day. I would go after work on Friday before the race and go place bets for myself and my wife and anybody else that wanted me to put a bet in for them. And I would do research all day and like pick a couple horses to put bets on. And my wife would just look at the names and pick one. And I swear she had a better picking record than I did.
My point exactly. So I have a new qualifier. If you typically sweat while you're doing it.
People sweat it in NASCAR, though.
I was just saying, I feel like there's jokes to be had here, and I'm drawing a blank on it. Here's one that's going to be in the next Olympic Games: breakdancing. Does it have? Apparently, it's a sport because it's in the Olympics. But would you consider that a sport?
Nope.
I agree.
But you could be sore after breakdancing,
and you could sweat. I have a third qualifier.
Okay, we need to like navigate these waters here.
The average person needs to know how you win or lose.
Adam's putting figure skating on notice, and I mean gymnastics. Do you really know who won or lost outside of the judges' score?
Yeah, it's if you're Russian, then you win if you're a Russian judge, and if you're American, you win with the American.
But
judge.
I think the average person knows that you need to get the higher score.
It's whoever you pay off. That's how gymnastics works. I must say, the more I'm drinking this Dollar Pils, y'all, it's a good Pilsner. I like it. I'm a fan. I've had it before, but I'm enjoying it.
Good. I feel like it's not as crisp as it would be if it was fresh.
Crowlers are kind of a mixed bag, whether it's going to taste as fresh. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's a week. It's still pretty good, not quite as fresh. I feel like that is a big difference. Out of the tap, but so Ryan, how do you what's the best way to fill a crowler so that it can last longer than a couple days? Is it the nitrogen purge?
Yeah, the best way is to let the bartender do
it. yeah. Stop sneaking behind the bar and try to do it yourself. Yeah, no, you got to purge it with oxygen and yeah, I think I forgot if it's nitrogen or CO2, but something heavier than air. So when you purge it, air doesn't filter back in while you're filling it before you put the top on. It's really how you're supposed to do it.
Well, there you have it, folks. So Ryan, I can tell from your list that you still have some more sports to evaluate. So hit us up, man.
What about like disc golf? Sport or a game? Because I mean, according to Adam's criteria, you know who wins or loses. You're going to be sore the next day. And it takes some like hand-eye coordination.
And you're going to sweat. You could say that about pretty much anything that you do.
I know, like he's bridging, like your criteria is bridging into things like Frisbee, ultimate Frisbee.
Ultimate Frisbee is a sport. No doubt about it.
I'd like that you're sticking to your guns on how you determine this. What about bowling? Is bowling a sport for you?
I'm going to say yes, because you can win. You can. So it depends how.
It depends if you're playing like Bill Murray and Kingpin or not, Woody Harrelson.
If you're a pudgy guy like me, you'll probably sweat doing it.
I'm glad that you've qualified bowling as a sport because I saw on Ryan's agenda there was a section there on what sports are most fun to play while you're drinking. And my answer is actually bowling. I think that is fun to play drinking.
I do too. I think that's a lot of fun to play while you're drinking.
I'm trying to think of a better one and I'm not coming up with it because I know like softball leagues, they have like, they call them beer leagues and stuff. But honestly, I don't really like being in beer leagues because you try to chug a beer between innings and then you go back out there in the field and have to chase down balls and you just like want to throw up. I kind of hate beer leagues.
I think golf is up there.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
What is a sport that you think would be fun to do while drinking or under the influence that you've never done?
NASCAR.
I saw you driving home last weekend. I'm pretty sure that qualifies.
Don't drink and drive, everybody.
Yeah, the Beer and an Easy legal team did not approve that last statement.
For the record, that it never happened.
Okay, so NASCAR is yours. Is that your final answer?
No. But I'll let y'all go while I think of something better.
I'm going to say hockey.
So you don't feel pain when you're like getting jammed up against the side of the wall?
Yeah.
Being a Minnesota boy, skating is like way more exhausting than you might think. And continuing on my statement about running around after drinking beer, I have to heartily disagree with you about the hockey thing.
But it would be fun. It would be so fun to just check people. I mean, I'm envisioning myself being so much like more agile on the ice than what would actually probably happen.
So what we used to do all the time in the winter is play. So all the parks up there have outdoor ice rinks. And in the winter, we would turn the goals sideways and play boot hockey with a tennis ball sideways so that the distance was like obviously extremely short. And we used to drink before that. It does help ease the pain when you get smoked in the face by a frozen tennis ball. So that is one benefit of doing it.
See, I'm on to something. I've gone empty, so I'm cracking my backup beer.
Oh, tell us about the backup beer, because this is a weather-related trigger here. To
This is a cold front has come through the Houston area, and so it would be very improper if I did not bust out a stout. So I am drinking Black is Beautiful by none other than the OG Weathered Souls Brewing Company, San Antonio.
Have you ever had one of the OGs of the Black is Beautiful?
I have not.
Oh, this is a big day then.
Have you?
No, but I've got the other can here, so I'll be close behind you cracking this.
I'm going to drop one more for discussion for you guys, both whether you think it's a sport and if you'd want to do it or if you have done it. The beer mile. Do you guys know what this is?
I've heard of it, but you need to explain
You're
it.
going to have to give me some deets.
You run a mile, but you have to chug one beer every lap. So you chug a beer, run a lap, chug another beer, run a lap. You do it 4 times. So you end up chugging 4 beers and running a mile. And it's a race to see who can do it first.
I think we need to bring that into the Beer and Ain't Easy Olympics.
The Beer Olympics.
The Beer Olympics.
You like it because you're a runner, though.
I am going to win. It plays to my 2 strengths.
Chugging.
Running and chugging. You guys have no chance.
This is true. And I literally just talked about how I hate chugging beer and running afterwards.
I think that seals the deal. Ryan's been running this agenda, but I have to interject a sports-related topic in the middle of this episode.
You may proceed.
I've been dying to talk about this one for multiple episodes, but everybody in this podcast played sports when they were younger. And I feel like everybody in their life has those sports moments that they hold near and dear. And so what I'm calling this segment is the Uncle Rico segment, where we all get to talk about our peak sports performance. And the job of the other two is all of us are going to get really caught up with like how awesome we were in those sports. And the other two is to just put them in their place. Otherwise we'd be sitting here like falling asleep with the Olympic explanation of these great sporting events. So I think we need to see, don't you wish you could go back moments here?
I think we need to put Drew on the spot first then.
Yeah. What you got, Drew?
All right. Ready for this. So I was a tennis player. And
I am so surprised.
And, I was at district because, you got to win district to get to state. You got to get to state. And so my high school, we had 2 doubles teams in tennis. I was not on the number 1 doubles team. I was incorrectly put on the number 2 doubles team. Our high school had cleaned up.
Hold on, I have a question. Was this co-ed?
No, this is all males. So our high school had cleaned up shop with all the other schools in the district. And so we ended up in the finals of district between the number 1 and number 2 doubles team from our high school. So number 1 team, they got one guy who's all right. The other guy was like that athletic kid that played a lot of other sports. And he would just show up mid-season on the off-season sports like tennis, like he's a basketball player, and he'd show up and then, oh yeah, you're going to be on the number 1 doubles team. That those people in every high school that piss you off. But to top it off, he was also like the rich kid that everyone wanted to hang out with because his family was rich and money. So basically, the situation was it was me and like a freshman playing against them. So it was like Globo Gym versus The Average Joes.
Average Joes.
And we took it to 3 sets and got down to the wire, and we just fucking crushed them. So that was my moment of greatness. Beating the rich kid.
Wow.
We won district, won state.
The number of qualifiers leading up to that was pretty funny.
All right, Ryan, I hope you have something more impressive.
So that's why I thought this would be funny, because like everyone thinks their sports moments are great, but then when you say them out loud, you're like, God damn, that's fucking lame. That's Uncle Rico. Especially when you're a middle-aged man. So let's hear it, Ryan.
Well, I know this is an audio podcast, but
He brought his hardware.
I brought the hardware. I was captain of our varsity football team my senior year, and we ended up going on to win state in the highest division in Minnesota. That's it. That's the story.
Wow.
I have a question that
That's good. That far surpasses Drew's. Not that really says much.
Well, I just have a question that's going to put Ryan in an awkward position. So was this like a varsity blues moment where there were women lined up with like whipped cream on? Allison, are you listening? You have to tell the truth here, right?
You have to tell the truth. When you signed up to this podcast, you solemnly swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I hereby resign from the podcast effective immediately. Adam, what's your moment here?
Last but not least, I'm up. So I was like one of those freak like man childs, like where, you know how like in elementary school you had like one of those kids that was like fully mature, like had a beard in like 5th grade.
Yeah.
So that was me. So like all throughout my life, like I was like the best athlete early on, and then like each year everyone caught up to me. So in 8th grade, I was really fast, and I broke a track record of a national champion that played in the NFL, Tim Dwight.
Damn, what event?
It was a 4x1.
Oh, nice. Heck yeah, man.
That was my claim to fame.
Wow, I didn't expect it to be running.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
either.
so
Well,
I was very lean
Can't
at
imagine
one
that.
point. I was very lean at one point in my life, and
You found craft beer?
I bulked up. That's the word I'm going with.
yeah. Yeah, I was fully expecting more of a distance since you do the marathon stuff. Drew, are you regretting bringing this up or what?
Oh, I knew. Like, I mean, I got nothing to hide here. Yeah. I was a tennis player. You know? So that wasn't my best victory. It was just the fact that I beat that guy that I went to school with from elementary school. And it just, I probably didn't do it justice, but, you know, we were definitely average Joes.
Did you spit on him and kick him afterwards?
No, we just talked a lot of shit where he couldn't hear us.
So speaking of high school athletics, to bring it back to beer, what do you think is the acceptable age to drink at a sporting event for your kids?
I have a twist on the question. We'll come back to your question, Ryan. The immediate question is, so Ryan, your child isn't really in sports yet. Drew,
Soccer
your
player.
child is an elite athlete.
She got all of my genes.
She got all the genes. So the question is, have you drank at any of her sporting events yet?
I think
Come
you
clean.
and I drank at when they did the soccer superstars practice in the neighborhood. I think
Did we?
I know I did.
I'm above that.
Yeah.
I was about to say I hadn't drank at any of my kids, but maybe
Maybe it was Michael that I was drinking with,
Yeah,
but
I'm
someone
above
had a beer
that.
with me while we watched that. So, and that was probably 6-year-old soccer or pretty close to 6-year-old soccer when I had a beer.
I don't think I did.
But that's more of a neighborhood hangout. It's not like going to the game.
So I have a good story. So we at Soccer Superstars, I don't think you were there. We were at a soccer practice. It's a 1-hour soccer practice. I look over, there's this dad. He busts out a 6-pack of Fat Tires. And in the 1 hour, he dusts all 6 of those Fat Tires. 1 hour, 6 Fat Tires gone.
There's a certain level of desperation there. You really need a beer if you're drinking like that.
I know. It was so impressive. It really was.
Is that a sport? I bet he was sore the next day.
Well, that's a great question. So I think there's let's break it down. Yes, he was sweating.
Yeah.
B, he was sore the next day. And C, he was winning.
This is indisputable.
So, I think we have our answer. So back to Ryan's original question. What age does the child have to be in sports for it to be acceptable for you to be drinking at their events or before their events?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's like college age before you're there. I don't know. I know my parents drank when my sister was on the swim team in college, but like I just don't see a situation where I'm at a kid's game drinking, but maybe there's a good one that y'all can bring me up to speed with.
It's one of those things where I think maybe times have changed since we were in high school, like where I feel like I would have been floored if my parents were drinking prior to my football game.
Yeah.
But like, think about if we were kids and like the amount of breweries that my kids have been to and their limited lives versus me. Like, I think it's just more of an open drinking environment. We're more like Europe now.
Yeah. Like without
more
a
binge
doubt,
drinking.
Without a doubt, my 2-year-old has seen me drink more than I've seen my parents drink, even at this age.
I feel like our parents like tried to hide it a little bit. Like they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this so much around the kids because then they'll have unhealthy drinking habits. And then, well,
I'm just trying to normalize it for my kids so that they don't go crazy.
You're such a good parent.
I am a good parent.
Yeah. So my daughter's about to turn 2. She just assumes every canned product is beer. So I was in bed. She gets up at 7:30 in the morning. We bring her downstairs. She gets in bed with us to like watch her cartoons in the morning. It's like 7:45 in the morning. She looks over. I have canned cold brews. I'm drinking a canned cold brew. She just points at it and goes, beer, beer, beer.
You just reminded me of like a slight embarrassing moment related to the beer drinking and the podcast is that my daughter's in Scouts and we were on a camping trip with the other Scouts. And like, I just was walking up and I overheard my oldest daughter talking to her friend. And she's like, my dad has a podcast and it's about beer. I was like, oh God, the other parents are going to fucking hate me.
They then asked him to leave.
Yeah. I've been excommunicated from the Scouts organization.
Drew, this is super random, but I want to ask you about something that I've noticed recently.
Is this a heart-to-heart kind of discussion?
Should we turn off the mic for this conversation? Or
Intervention!
So I've noticed this at a few like bars and like a couple breweries recently. And for the listeners that don't know, Aggies are super big about their class rings. Everyone gets them. It's this whole deal.
Hey, hold up. I don't like this tone. I don't like where this is going.
Continue on, Ryan.
So
I think I can add something to this conversation.
What I've noticed become a thing is you go into the bathroom and above the urinals, guys will just like press their ring into the wall and leave imprints of their Aggie ring. And like it becomes a thing where everyone does it too. And so like you go into these bathrooms and they're just like peppered with imprints of Aggie rings. And it's just like, I feel like it's just like a shitty thing to do. Do you have any defense for what's going on here, Drew?
Why, Drew? Why do your people do this?
Allegedly. There is a lot of Aggie rings stolen in the United States. And I think this is the work of thieves. Because no good Aggie would besmirch their name by fucking sticking their ring into a wall. So shame on them.
They're always sticking it somewhere else.
True.
Ryan, does anyone who graduated at Oklahoma State get a ring?
I don't personally know anyone that got a class ring, no.
So, Drew, why on earth do people that went to A&M get a ring?
It's so we can visibly see who's an Aggie, and we immediately know who we need to hang out with. And
it's a cult.
It's about the ring dunk. So let's talk about best.
Well, hold on. Before you talk about your little ring rituals, I just want to put it out there that I think it's really freaking weird how you guys are so obsessed with your rings.
They literally have a statue of the ring.
So we have a saying at A&M that's like, from the inside looking out, you can't explain it. From the outside looking in, you can't freaking understand it. So you're just gonna have to leave it at that. That you're not part of the club. I'm sorry. Neither of you will ever understand, nor will you be a part of the most exclusive club of individuals in the United States.
Yeah, I was going to tell Drew to give his elevator a pitch about it, but he opted instead to tell us to fuck off. So
I know better than to defend myself on this podcast. It's a losing battle. All right. So before we wrap this episode, I do want to say that this Black is Beautiful stout is pretty fantastic. I've had some variants of the Black is Beautiful, but this OG is just a really solid stout.
It's really beautiful.
It is good. Nice use of the name. So I'm looking around. I see on the camera, Ryan's got a full beard and mustache. I'm looking over at Adam. He's got at least a couple day 5 o'clock shadow, maybe. There's still time for you, Adam. I think we need to get into the Beering Ain't Easy Movember Challenge. Would that not be amazing if we could all have mustaches at the end of the month and have our listeners vote on who has the creepiest mustache?
See,
Are y'all in?
Not all of us live behind a desk in EHS, and they may be called to the line of duty.
I mean, I'm too lazy to shave anyway, so fuck it, I'm in.
The real question is, why is Ryan's beard not gray yet?
He's only got one kid.
He's only got one kid. I don't think my beard was gray when my oldest was 2. And look at it now, Ryan. That's what you got to look forward to.
I mean,
I think that's why Adam's out. He doesn't want to look older when he gets that gray coming back into that beard. I think we just found the insecurity.
Well, I'm looking at Drew.
Oh, mine's gray as fuck. So I've just like moved on with my life.
I got to be honest. On my phone, my Google Photos app gives me like, oh, on this date 2 years ago, on this date 5 years ago, whatever. So I have some pictures, and I'll look at them, and I see Drew like 5 years ago, and it's like all black beard, all black hair, and it was a little jarring. I'll be honest.
So I think that's all we got for today. I think it's time for us to wrap. So today you heard our expert opinion on what's a sport, what's not a sport, what's the criteria. According to Adam, it's everything that makes him sweat. That's one way to look at it. But did we get it wrong? Tell us. Get on social media. Send us a message. Get on crossthestreamsmedia.com. You can send us an email. There's even a button on the bottom right-hand corner where you can leave us a voicemail. Tell us we're a bunch of idiots. We can handle it. Bottom line, we just want to hear from y'all. And while you're on the Cross the Streams media page, check out the other shows on there. There's some great ones. In particular, I got to do a little shout out to Burn Appetit. It's a show that changes the world of fast food as you know it. And yours truly is on the Sonic episode, so go check it out. So, Adam, do you have any words of wisdom to wrap us up today?
Well, my listeners, you have all been very much informed of the criteria that is required for something to be a sport.
No question. There's been a lot of information.
There's been a lot of information presented and digested, and you now know Drew is the least elite of athletes of all the Beer and Ain't Easy hosts.
I'm just getting started. Just by the way, my elite sports moment just hasn't happened yet. I'm a late bloomer. We've established a lot of things as sports that don't require a lot of athletic ability. So I'm about to double down on one of those sumbitches.
I'm sweaty. I'm going to be sore tomorrow, and I won this episode. Beering ain't easy as a sport.
Damn right.
We'll see you all next time.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.